Today we're going to be building an army of 20 minifigs. The print quality on these minifigs is amazing and I love the accessories that they come with. They will be available on my website, so the link will be down in the description below. So now let's get into the speed build. There it is, guys. You can see we got 4 different factions set up. First thing that stands out to me immediately are these colorful garments that they wear around their necks, and these were actually supposed to be hoods. In the Middle Ages, their hoods were different in that they were generally separate pieces of clothing. So you would wear a shirt and then you would wear the hood on top of that shirt, which consisted of the lower sort of collar section, which would drape over the shoulders and around the chest area, and then you would obviously have the hood itself. And people wore hoods in their everyday lives when out in the fields to either protect themselves from the cold or rain, and if they were levied to battle, that's what they would most likely wear as well, not only as a form of protection, but also as a possible display of the livery colors of their lords, so they would be identified on the battlefield. Which is likely what we see here with these minifigs. They were normally worn by the lower class, so you generally wouldn't see any knights wearing these. Another interesting fact about hoods in the Middle Ages was that they were not as tight as we have them today. They were oftentimes pretty loose to the point where they can be worn over various headgear, including helmets. There's plenty of evidence in medieval manuscripts which depict the usage of hoods on the battlefield by various lower class foot soldiers worn over the armor. But here in LEGO, this is a cloth piece which has 3 holes that go over the torso's head connection, basically forming a complete circle around the minifig's upper body. So there is no actual hood section, it's more like a collar specifically designed for identification. I also really like how you can have 2 of these folded areas sit at the shoulders just to make it look more natural. At first I thought it might be a little too oversized, but then I looked at the illustrations and realized that no, some variations actually had to come down almost to the elbow, which is exactly how it sits on these minifigs. As for the circular cutouts going around the hood, they would have different patterns of squares, long straps, and other shapes. So you guys can see how different medieval armies would have looked like. There would have been so many differences in colors, designs, and pieces of clothing when it came to garments worn over the armor. Some people would be wearing surcoats, some people would be wearing hoods, scarves, or some people wouldn't wear clothing over armor at all, in which case they may have been hard to identify on the battlefield. In the Middle Ages, it was generally more about practicality and what everyone had access to rather than them being forced to wear a specific set of identifiable clothing. Now let's start to take a look at these variants independently, starting with this one right here with the purple hood. You'll notice that all of these minifigs come with armor pieces that sort of cover their torsos. This one in particular looks to have some sort of bronze plate armor. Now your average foot soldier wouldn't be able to afford full plate armor, and if they did, they would have been first covered with chainmail underneath, which isn't the case because he has gambeson underneath, but this isn't a bad thing since we rarely get full gambeson bodies in LEGO, and we get that here. If you guys don't know, gambeson would be worn by common soldiers. It is the basis of protection, I guess you could say. Then you would have gambeson with mail, and only then would you add plate armor if you could afford it, of course. But anyway, let's take a look at this wonderful gambeson body printing. You can see already that there's a cross-hatched pattern going on all around pretty much, and then it comes down to the knees, which is historically accurate lengthwise. They were made to come down anywhere between halfway up the thighs and to the knees. It also looks like he's wearing a nougat hose underneath the gambeson, which is a fitting color that I actually quite like. I also like the strap details on the torso. They were normally on the front, so that's accurate too. Just amazing body printing overall. I do very much like that kettle helmet. It's pretty much the same design as the Brick Warriors version, but it's just scaled down. I really like the painting on this kettle helmet. It's a little more grainy and it adds some texture to the helmet, which makes it look pretty cool. And here's a good look at that face print. No back face printing on any of these minifigs because they're obviously left exposed by the helmet. As for the weapon, I did some research as to whether this polearm may be historically accurate, and I found this image which displays a variety of different polearm heads. You can see that this one in particular looks to be a hybrid between a glaive and a halberd. So I can't really say this was accurate, but if you do want it to be historically accurate and you're into customization, you could sand off either the halberd section to make it look like a glaive, or you could sand off the top blade section and turn it into a halberd, in which case it would look similar to this image of a halberd head. The shield that he comes with is pretty unique as well, but it's definitely more on the fantasy side. Next up we have this foot soldier with the yellow and white coat of arms. He's got a red cloth piece this time, which will work great for any red faction. He's equipped with a falchion and a shield with some awesome looking coat of arms. It's basically a red dragon on a white and yellow background. The helmet is the other version of Kettle helmet which we get. Here's a quick comparison of the two. You can see that this one on the left is more pointy and smooth, and the one on the right is riveted and rounded off. The chest plate is pretty fancy, but again, your common foot soldier wouldn't be wearing it. I'm not a fan of the blue here. I think it makes it look more like something from the Nexo Knights. Taking it off, you can see that he's wearing a linen shirt as well as a hose. I like the button details on the shirt as well as the little string prints on his collar. I think that's what really enhances his overall look. On the side, you can see he's got some sort of a dagger strapped to his belt. And I have to say I'm a huge fan of the boot prints on these minifigs. Not much going on around the back, just some fold and crease prints. On the other side, he's got a sack strapped to his belt, which adds some character to the minifig. Maybe he's got some coins in there. I think out of all of these minifigs, this one can easily blend into a medieval city as a merchant because he's pretty much wearing casual everyday clothing, and the fact that he can afford some colorful clothing would elevate his status a little bit. Next up we have this minifig here, and he has a dark tan garment around his neck, which is a more natural and basic color, meaning it would probably be worn by the poorest of peasants. He's got some sort of a halberd, not sure if the specific shape of the polearm head is accurate. And he's got a shield, but this time it's in that shiny bronze color. The coat of arms is the fleur-de-lis, so I'll probably have some of my French knights wearing that shield. And his armor is pretty cool too. He's got the golden fleur-de-lis on his chest plate. But my favorite part about this minifig is when you take the chest plate off and take a look at that gambeson print. First of all, I absolutely love that nougat color. Just by spinning him around, you can already see that the detailing on him is just amazing. It's a slightly different design than the last gambeson body print we looked at. Here's a quick comparison of the two. You can see the nougat one does not use the straps on the torso. Likewise, it doesn't use the crosshatched pattern. My only complaint is that they didn't continue the print of this brown padded collar that we see on the back and torso, which they actually did on the tan gambeson body. So it wouldn't make much sense why they wouldn't do it on this one as well. But man, look at the arm printing there. I love the printing there with those lines representing the folds. I absolutely love these two minifig body prints. Their printing is amazing, and I'll definitely be using these for my lower class infantry from now on. And the last figure we got here actually has some higher end armor when compared to the others. First thing you'll notice is that he has some purple eyes. Not too sure about what's going on there. It looks a little creepy. He's got a yellow garment around his neck, and he comes with what looks to be a polearm corresponding to one of these polearm heads. He actually comes with a pretty cool shield which resembles the coat of arms of the Holy Roman Empire with the double-headed eagle. And what's really cool is that he's got that same coat of arms on his chest plate. Taking the armor piece off, we again have some wonderful printing here. You can see that he's wearing a brown brigandine. For those of you who might not know, the brigandine was a prominent form of body armor from the late medieval period, which is essentially made of small steel plates, which were riveted to the external fabric, which was typically made of heavy cloth, canvas, or leather. So all of those little steel dots that you see there would represent the rivets between the steel plates on the inside and the fabric on the outside. Brigandines offered great protection while also being more affordable when compared to a full steel chest plate, so it was often a popular choice among regular soldiers. You can see that this minifig here has combined their brigandine with some steel pauldrons and some external steel on the lower torso area. This was also historically represented. Oftentimes they would combine elements of plate armor with their brigandine armor. My only real gripe with the torso printing is that there is what looks to be some skin showing around the neck that should have been covered with some chainmail or gambeson depending on what they would be wearing underneath. The leg printing there is also pretty interesting with the black and yellow colors and the steel shoe print there. Definitely an awesome looking figure which will fit right into my little Holy Roman army. Now, if you're like me and always want your minifigs to be historically accurate, you'll love these minifigs because for the most part, their body printing is accurate to what they would have actually worn in the medieval period. I already mentioned that common soldiers wouldn't be able to afford plate armor, but it's still nice to have them included. It's definitely better than nothing. I'm super excited to mix and match these with some of my existing minifigs. The introduction of that cloth hood piece is also exciting and will overall enhance the look of any minifig. The weapons they come with are pretty cool as well. Some of them might not be entirely historically accurate, but I think they fit the minifigs quite well. As for their shields, I really like their scale, but some of their coat of arms are questionable, like these two which have a bronze background and this one which looks more like a painting. The gradient background there is what really gives it away. The rules of heraldry were strict about the coat of arms only consisting of solid color. What I think would elevate these minifigs to the next level would be if they would have had padded coif prints on their heads, just because those kettle helmets, which are great, don't get me wrong, but they do leave the rest of their heads exposed. On top of this, the two gambeson bodies we get have a hint of a brown collar from a padded coif being just around the neck, so it would have made perfect sense for them to have padded coifs. I decided to mix and match these minifigs with my existing collection and made some pretty interesting characters. First up we have a simple foot soldier. He's pretty much the same as he was, but I did give him a halberd from the Jerusalem minifigs. And I gave him a dark tan hood, which I think fits him pretty well. He doesn't stand out too much. Next up we have the merchant. You can see I gave him a scabbard with a sword to protect himself during his travels. I also gave him a fancy pointy black hat with a plume. He's also got that same red hood that he came with. And he does still have that same angry expression on his face, so maybe he's just lost a little too much money with one of his trades. And here I have this archer minifig. He's equipped with a dagger, a quiver, a bow, and a buckler shield that I managed to attach to his arm by taking his hand off and putting it through the handle of the shield. Pretty cool looking minifig overall. I did try to give him a hood, but the quiver got in the way, so I left it off. And next up we have my favorite one, the Holy Roman Knight. You can see I gave this one the clap visor from Longbrick, which not only looks good, but also hides away one of the flaws of the torso print with the aventail, that being the skin exposed there. I made sure to swap out the skin colored hands to give him some silver hands to represent gauntlets, and I had no issues with compatibility there. You don't have to worry about Lego's parts not being able to fit onto these minifigs. I also love how that brigandine looks on him. I think all the colors match, especially the silver on his legs, torso, and arms. Oh, and I got rid of his creepy purple eyes. All in all, these minifigs are unique in that they have some of the best body printing I've seen, with the gambeson prints especially. The best part about the gambeson prints is that they are very universal because they aren't tied to a specific color scheme. You can give these to any of your factions and still have them fit quite nicely. On top of this, you get a nice hood cloth piece so they can easily be identified based on the color of their hood piece. If you guys are interested in purchasing some of these for yourself, the link will be down in the description below. But other than that, I really hope you enjoyed this review and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.